So I'm so happy and delighted to have Vivienne Chow as our guest today.
Hi everyone.
So why are you connected to Germany? Did you study there, or did you go to like German Swiss or something?
I've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to visit Germany on a regular basis. Somehow, I was selected to take part in this program that was called. It's still there. It's called the Talon Press. So as part of the Berlinale, the Berlin International Film Festival, and the Talon Press program, it's a program under that, and they aim to support and provide training and workshop for young film journalists and critics from all over the world, and every year they pick like 10 people. And so I was selected to take part in the inaugural edition. That was, I think, 2002. Yeah, it was a very intensive training.
How long was it?
It was about a week, and so it happened during the film festival. And so I think the idea was to give young writers an opportunity to be part of an international cultural event. But then to work at the same time as a journalist and as a critic, but then the subject matter was film at the time, and so every day we had to produce stories, and it was, there was no internet. I think there was internet at the time, but then we were not like producing online.
I see.
And then we were producing a daily print newsletter. Can you imagine? Daily print newsletter, 4 pages. And we had like 10 of us, and then we had these editors and film critics, and like really famous film critics from all over the world. There was Derek Malcolm, who was who I think he for a long time he worked for The Guardian, and then with the Evening Standard, very famous film critic, and so I had the opportunity to work with him. And also Peter Cowie, he was the publisher of Variety, the film magazine.
Sure.
And who would have thought that I'm writing for Variety now? So it's quite an experience, because you have like all these like world-class people to work with.
It must be like something like a dream come true for you. Film is like one of your major interests, right?
I think my whole journey began with cinema.
Right.
Even though mostly now I write about art and film, or film industry. So
were there very few people in Hong Kong writing about in English like you, or were there a lot of them? I'm just wondering.
I think at the time there were very few people who write in English. There were some. When back at the time when I was with the newspaper, there were a few people. But then for a Hong Kong-born Chinese person writing in English language, they were very, very few.
That's one of the uniqueness of your I guess your writing. It's good. How have that experience, the fellowship experience, really inspired you? Is there something that really kind of changed you in a way, like how you look at journalism and how you wanted to continue with your career?
Definitely huge experience, because it was the first time that I was away from
the
home,
family. Yeah.
Away from Hong Kong for such a prolonged period of time. And I think most importantly, the greatest inspiration is I realized that there could be so many different possibilities in life, and there are so many different ways one can live their life and do the work or work differently. And I guess the kind of impacts would be could be comparable to what people are experiencing now because of COVID.
Sure.
I'm sure people know people have been going through this dramatic changes or experience in terms of the way they work. For example, like everything can be done online, and you don't really have to do like face-to-face meetings.
That's right. You don't have to actually fly over all over the world.
Exactly.
You can actually just turn on Zoom or
just go online, and then you get things done. But then I think this kind of revolutionary transformation for people that people are experiencing now. I think I was experiencing that like back in 2015 when I had that fellowship experience.
Let's talk a little bit about your childhood. You're not a city girl growing up, right?
I grew up on Cheung Chau, the outlying island. That's I think they have a nickname for Cheung Chau. That's the Mongkok of all the Hong Kong outlying islands. Because it's so busy. It's the most most densely populated outlying island in Hong Kong, and so my family is still my family is still living on Cheung Chau.
Moving on to like secondary school, you hit the island from Cheung Chau to Hong Kong, and in Yinghua College, right? Yinghua Girls.
Yes.
It's amazing school, very tough, and academically, aggressive, I would say. Is that where you picked up or like really drew on your writing and or it just came naturally?
When I first started secondary school, I couldn't even say balloon. Like, I couldn't even pronounce a lot of words properly. My English was so bad when I first started secondary school, and I was under a lot of pressure because there were a lot of kids at the time, and they all. I mean, Yinghua Girls is a
mid-level area.
Yeah, and it's a very good school. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to spend 7 years there. But all the girls, they came from like really prestigious primary schools, like Sacred Heart, St. Clair's, and all that. Yeah.
Yes.
And then suddenly, I went to Sacred Heart too, but Sacred Heart on Cheung Chau is like a completely different story. And so when I first started, I was like, oh my god, actually, I did not realize that there's so much I did not know, and I had a very hard time adjusting myself for the first couple of years of secondary school. Somehow one day, sounds like magic again. Somehow one day I started really. I became very interested in history, and I don't know why. I just wanted to know about the past, and I started reading a lot, and then there was and then at around Form 3, we started writing essays. History essays, and it turns out that I'm actually really interested in writing essays or expressing myself to writing sort of like of course, I mean, as a teenager, very but I had a lot of opinion about history, and then because essays, and you have to you're asked to
argue your point of view.
Yes, and based on the materials that you have around. Yes, the historical facts and stuff. And the teacher at the time, she was impressed, and she was very helpful also. I think maybe it started there.
You also told me you love music, and
I was listening to a lot of British bands.
How did you understand the lyrics? I mean, they could be quite difficult to grasp, right?
Oh my god, yes. I had no idea what they were saying at the beginning, but I would study the lyrics. I think maybe that's quite mad.
Dig into the dictionary to try to understand the lyrics.
Yes, to understand the song and why,
something.
And the origin, like the musical influences, and for example, I would read the interviews of these bands, even though I had a lot of trouble understanding the English at the time. But for example, Suede is one of my favorite bands, and so I would read the interviews with the singer Brad Anderson, and then he would be talking about his music influences and his lyrics influences, and he would mention a whole bunch of names. And there was one interview he mentioned David Hockney, the artist.
Okay.
And then he said he loved David Hockney's paintings, and I'm like, who's David Hockney? And then so I would I would try to look things up and to try to find out,
who these artists interest.
Yes, why all these influences, like from music, like Sex Pistols and the Clash, the punk era, to the Smiths, and also the artistic influences like David Hockney. That was the first Western artist, the name that I heard of.
And a very key one.
Yes, and it turns out yes, I had no idea at the time. And I think I learned a lot of these cultural influences. I think contemporary culture from music and also cinema, because they all influence each other. They're all related. And so I did my research, and then I found out journalism school at it's journalism and communication, School of Journalism and Communication at Chinese U. So they offer not just journalism programs, but also TV production, some broadcasting, and some film studies. And okay, this might be close to what I really wanted to study, but also satisfy my family. Then, in the middle of 2000s, and I was moved to the news desk, because at the time I think it also matched the development of Hong Kong. It was at a time that there was a lot of transition things happening. There was a development of the West Kowloon, and it was a bit chaotic at the time. And then the government also started talking about creative industries, cultural policy, film funding. There's a whole lot of government policies that deal with arts and cultural development. And I think they wanted, at the time, the editor, they wanted someone to who have a bit of a background of knowing, in some industry people, arts and culture, and to cover these policy issues.
Right.
And I was like, okay, yeah. So I was transferred to the news desk, and I think it was very helpful for me in terms of growth, because you need I think everything you need a context to understand a work of art, or a piece of I think a work of art in general, be it visual art piece, or a music piece, or a film. There's always there's always a context for the work. I mean, even just to look at the work behind us. If you don't understand, if you don't know the context, you can just scratch the surface. You can probably it can be covered up.
Yeah,
also.
you won't appreciate.
You won't know how to appreciate that. And I think with the experience with the news desk, and I know much better about how the society functions, how things are done, and how the society operates, and it helps to understand the context of a work of art. So I think it's very helpful, and it also expands my view of arts and culture in general. I just do things that I love, and like going to see art exhibitions. I would be going to see an art show anyway, whether I'm writing about it or not. Do I want to talk to an artist? I always want to talk to creative people and artists, regardless of whether I'm interviewing them or not. I just love to talk to people, and there was a time when I was when I was working at the back in the days in the newspaper. There was a period of time that I did not feel that I was going to work. I was talking to my old colleagues the other day when we were working together. I did not feel that I was going to work. Like every day going to work was like play. And
so enjoyable.
It was just so. I think I really enjoyed doing what I was doing at the time, well, of course, it's a huge blessing, to be able to do something that you really enjoy, and to be able to make a living and it's a huge blessing. But then there was that I just like, okay, every day I go to a press conference or go do interviews. It was not work. I mean, yes, it's part of work, but it didn't feel like I have to go back to the office now. No, it didn't feel that way.
Because what you're doing suits you well. It's almost like that's the exact thing you want to be doing in your life. Maybe not with one particular organization or company. Sometimes you may move on, but this is probably exactly what you want to do.
I think so. Yeah, I think it just suits me.
And you did mention like opportunity. I guess it's equitable, equal opportunities for all.
Yeah.
Like when talent should be awarded with opportunities, not disregarding where they're from. For like yourself, I was so impressed by the program that you discussed, and because you had all the experience you had, and that inspired you to share with others, and that's why you are here with the campaign.
So I've been doing it since 2014, and every year at Art Basel.
Right.
It's a small program. Every year we have. It's practically the Talon Press formula. 10 people, 10 people each year, and we also produce content covering not just the art fair, but all the things that are happening around town at the time. That's like culture related, but maybe mostly contemporary art. And we try to have different kinds of stories. So sometimes like interview, and then art review, or feature that would discuss issues that are more in depth. It's unfortunate that this year we couldn't do it because of COVID.
And this is so meaningful. We hope that in the coming year, like in the next edition of Basel Hong Kong, everything will be fine.
I know,
and then you can receive the next 10 great candidates.
Yeah. There's one thing I wanted to add about Cultural Journalism Campus, is that I think the reason why I wanted to do it in Hong Kong is because I believe that Hong Kong is an international city, and that's why the program is primarily in English language. But then, of course, I also take accommodate to have like Chinese content as well. But then the thing is, I always wanted to make it as a platform for people, not just like locally born, but also open it up to people from different parts of the world. So which is why we have local students, and also ethnically non-Chinese students studying in Hong Kong, and also people from abroad. We've had people from Switzerland and the Philippines, and there's also one a student. She was from Guangzhou, Guangzhou. But then she studies in Japan.
Right.
And so, I mean, you need this kind of diversity.
That's right.
And this kind of diversity also makes Hong Kong successful. It's not just having one voice, but to have a diversified cultural background, and when you have different people coming together, that makes.
And you did say that we talked extensively about being immersed in the right environment.
Yeah.
And Hong Kong has long been very open in terms of, being a real international city, welcoming people. I guess people feel comfortable living here.